getting started and getting up and running with Desk.com. As I mentioned, my name is Becca Kraft. I'm a product marketing director here at Desk. And with me, I have a customer service genius, not just an expert, but a genius, Michelle Lee. Michelle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I have never been introduced as a genius before, so thank you for that, Becca. So prior to joining Desk, I worked in a customer care department, and I was a program manager, and I was responsible for building self-service tools for our customers, and I worked really close with agents, call centers, and I was really an advocate for customer care within the company. And at Desk, what I do is I really understand the business requirements of our customers, and then I help them configure their Desk instance to match those requirements.
As you can see, she's a very special guest for us to have, and we want to encourage you to connect with us as part of this webinar. Now, there's a few different ways that you can do that. You can either connect with us on Twitter. We're always happy to hear from you there. If you use the hashtag CustServeWins, we'll be sure to pick you up. But especially in this webinar, when we're talking about best practices and things that might be very specific to your company, I'd like to encourage you to use the chat feature in GoToWebinar. If you look on your panel, there should be a blue bar that says chat. If you drop that down, you can chat us Q&A, and we'll be addressing these questions over the course of the webinar. Hopefully, I'll bring them up along with our conversation with Michelle. And at the end, we have a dedicated Q&A session, so we'll try to get to everyone's questions there. We'll also be recording this webinar so that you can watch it on demand. So if this is something that you find really valuable, you can share it with your team, or if for some reason you have to go, you'll be sent a recording that you can watch at your convenience. So with that, let's launch into our agenda for the day. So today's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about your strategies for designing a great customer experience, because as we all know, if you don't have what your tactics are. So we're going to start out talking about strategies. We're then going to move into some of those best practices and tactics that you can start with today, and ways that you might want to be thinking about planning for the future. So we've got a full agenda. We're going to try to keep it short. Your time is very, very valuable. But let's start with some of those strategies. So Michelle, when we're talking about a customer experience, what are we really talking about?
So I think, what's important is knowing that setting yourself up for service success is really all about knowing, what kind of customer experience you'd like to deliver, and then thinking about how you can deliver that now and how you can scale that experience in the future. And there are a number of things, you can think about when accomplishing this. Okay. So first of all, you can think about some questions that are related to your customer. Do you have different types of customers with different types of questions? Do your customers have different statuses, for example, a VIP versus a regular customer, paying versus non-paying, etc.? And are there different products and services that you support? So as you think through the answers to the questions, you can recognize that different customers may require different experiences even under the same company. Next, you want to think about how your agents fit into that experience. Do they have varying levels of experience or realms of expertise that they service? Do they service the same type of customers or select types? Depending on the answer to the questions, the way that you want to design your experience for your agents will also play into the overall customer experience. And so when you've determined the experience for your customers and your agents, next you want to think about the customer experience when it comes to getting support. So if your customer has a problem, what are the order of steps in which you'd like them to get service? Do you want them to look online and potentially find the answer there through self-service and then contact you if they can't find the answer? Do you want them to pick up the phone? What information do you need from your customers to resolve the issues more efficiently? And the answer to these questions can really vary by contact type. So as well, depending on the type of customer experience you're trying to create, it may require different processes. And so the thing that's really challenging about customer service is that the customer service process really looks different at every company. And it's important for you as an organization to think through your customer experience from the perspective of your customers, your agents, and the people process you're trying to build. And once you've thought through how you want this experience to be, you can set up your Desk instance to help you achieve the experience you'd like for today and as you scale.
I think that's a great framework for us to think about sort of how do you think through that strategy? Because as you said, customer service really does look different at every company. And if you have a really good handle on what's happening with your customers, what you need for your agents, and the support process that you're trying to build, it'll help you when you're thinking about deploying some of these tactics. So with that said, that's sort of a great sort of frame up for how do you want to think about the strategy. But I know that one of the things you're really great at is the tactics. So what are some of the ways that you would encourage these folks to think about the tactics that they should be using as a best practice?
Great question, Michael. So the first one is really thinking about your email. So for most companies, your email channel is really likely your most used channel, and it's really important in helping you achieve your desired customer experience. So I want to share with everyone some tips to help your company and your customers set up for success. So first of all, my number one thing is to consolidate your email addresses. So as a solutions consultant, I've worked with many clients that over the years have accumulated a large number of support aliases. So many of them have a general email like support@company.com, afterhours@company.com, VIP, special requests, product requests, and on and on. And this can be really confusing for customers and for agents, and it can lead to a very cluttered desk instance. And it can also lead to decreased efficiency, which will impact both your agents and customers. So it's okay to have multiple aliases, but make sure that they each serve a purpose. And as a rule of thumb, the less redundancy and the overlap, the better. So for example, instead of having multiple VIP aliases like VIP@company.com, whiteglove@company.com, just have one. And as a general rule of thumb, have one main support email address that serves about 80% of your contacts. And additionally, each alias should route to a single group in Desk, which leads us into our next best practice, which is to use multiple email addresses to automate inbound routing. So if you have multiple email addresses, each should generally have a corresponding group that you're going to route to. So for example, support@company.com could route to Tier 1, which has a really normal SLA or service level agreement. VIP@company.com could route to a group called a VIP, which has a shorter service level agreement. So by automating routing, you don't need an agent to look at the email and then assign a group each time. This is a significant productivity booster, and it also helps your customers get the support they need more quickly. So let me come out of the presentation for 1 second and just quickly show you how you would do that. So to create inbound routing, you would go to Cases, Rules, okay? And then the type of rule is an inbound interaction rule. So let's just say we want to create one for the VIP group. Okay, we want to select this for email. We're going to add this rule. And in the all condition, what we want to do is we want to say if a case is new, okay, and if the email to contains VIP@company.com, then you're going to want to set the group to VIP. Okay, you want to make sure your rule is turned on. And that's as simple as that. You can also create a routing rule for support@company.com or any other email alias that's important to your company.
So hang on just a second. We're having a little bit of trouble seeing your screen. Okay. Can you make sure that we are looking at the admin that you're working in?
Yeah, let's see. Let's see here.
Okay.
Can everyone see now?
So hold on for just a minute, folks. I know this is going to be really good information for you, so we'll pause, and we're just going to try to figure this out from a technical perspective. Thanks for your patience, folks. We should be up and running in just a couple of minutes. Sorry, I know this demo is going to be important for you all to see. We're just having a little bit of a struggle with GoToWebinar at the moment.
Okay. See my screen now.
Can everybody see the screen? You can just chat me and we'll figure that out. It looks good to me.
Okay,
great.
So again, the rule is created in the cases menu, and it's an inbound interaction rule. And I already added the rule here, but if you take a look, essentially the rule says that if the case is new and the email too contains VIP@company.com, okay, you're going to set the case sign group to VIP. So that's the rule action. We enable the rule. We called it VIP@company.com routing. And then if you'd like, you can just copy the rule, okay, and then you can create the same one for your general, support@company.com. Just replace these items, and then you can, for example, assign it to Tier 1, and then now you've automated routing, so you don't have to have someone there assigning cases to a queue. So that's really helpful. Okay, going back to the PowerPoint. Becca, can you let me know if you can see this okay?
I can see it.
Perfect. So automating inbound contacts is very important, but next you should also use outbound rules to automate the outbound email address used. So you don't have to think about what email address you need to use every time if you have multiple outbound email addresses. So let me come onto this PowerPoint for 1 second so I can show you how to create an outbound interaction rule. So in cases rules, you will go to outbound interaction. We're going to add a rule, and we're going to say VIP@company.com email. So we're going to select the email channel, okay, and then we're going to say if the case is assigned to the group VIP, okay, then what we want to do is we want to set the email address to the VIP support, okay, and then we want to turn that on. And so now, anytime we respond, we don't have to worry about which email address is being used for the outbound, and we have the flexibility of using multiple email addresses to outbound our customers.
So we have a really great question coming from our attendees here. You've talked about sort of how you automating some inbound routing rules so that you're sending emails to the right team. How do you define those different tiers in Desk? Or do you think that's something that we're going to get to later?
In terms of defining the different tiers, that's really specific to each company. So what it is it's a group. So in teams, okay, in your groups, I've established different teams or groups that I have here. So I have a Tier 1 support, I have a Tier 2, and then I have a VIP. But different companies, have different types of groups. So for example, some may have groups based on the contact reason. Is it a how-to question? Is it a troubleshooting question? Is it one on shipping? And you can also use those types of groups to route your cases.
Perfect. That's great. So Elizabeth, I know you had a question about something we could show again. If you could be more specific about what you'd like to see again, that would be great. And then we've got a very advanced question around parsing emails between liquid or regular expressions. I think that might be something that we'll get to in the Q&A as just a much more advanced tactic. It may not be something that you need for your setup to success, but we will try to get to that question in the Q&A. Can you show us again how we get to the automated outbound emails, just navigating through the admin?
Okay. So first you want to go to cases, then you want to go to rules, then you want to go to outbound interaction. And there you can add a rule. Okay, we'll just call this one support@company.com, and then we'll check the email off. Okay. And then all you want to do is you want to, if the case assigned group is, for example, Tier 1, okay, then you want to select set email SMTP server to the support@company.com email. Turn that rule on, and that's it.
Very cool. And this is where you can see a lot of where you're going to do the automation and rules that happens in Desk.com. And there's a lot of different rules that you can set up in this area. I think for the moment we're just focusing on those outbound interactions, but as you're thinking about setting up Desk, it's great for you to explore some of the other opportunities that you have to automate what's happening with your support processes.
Okay. So now let's go into the second best practice that I have for everyone. So I think, when we talk about designing the customer experience, it's really important to be able to segment your customers and data because different customers, contact types, product types, etc., may require a different process. And so determining segmentation up front is important for data and reporting purposes so you have better insights on how your team is doing and how you can improve. So for example, by segmenting cases by contact reason, you can see what contact reasons have the longest handle time. You can then create an article or a macro potentially to help the customer solve their issue more quickly. And Desk's reporting capabilities and custom fields are a really good way to help you segment customers and drill down on that customer experience. So for those that don't know what a custom field is, it's a feature in Desk that allows you to capture customized information for each case. So you have standard fields like status, priority, but you can also create ones to fit your organization. So for example, you can create a pick list to capture what contact reason a case is about or what product type the case is about. So some of the most common ways companies segment cases is by channel. So for example, phone, email, Twitter, chat, etc. And this can be done natively in Desk. Other really popular ways to segment, for example, I'm a bagel and cupcake shop would be contact reason, and the pick list might include general inquiry, shipping, delivery, complaints, feedback, or special requests. It might also include the customer type. So for example, I'm a customer, I'm a restaurant or reseller, I'm a supplier. It can also include the product type and the region.
Fantastic.
So with respect to best practices, one of the things that we often see is that customers use labels to capture case information instead of custom fields, and this can really lead to several challenges. So if you have a contact reason, for example, a custom field can provide a pick list that your agent can choose from. Labels, on the other hand, are all mixed together. So an agent may not know that there are actually 5 contact reasons they can pick from, and they may end up assigning the wrong contact reason label to cases. This is especially true if your contact reason has a very long pick list. And second of all, labels are really meant for more of a visual cue and kind of like uncommon events. And as a rule of thumb, I always suggest to my customers that 80% of cases shouldn't have labels, whereas 20% should. Think of a case, with an urgent label. If every single case had a label, as you can see in this slide here, you really won't notice the urgent label, and sometimes there's so many labels that it might not even show up. So save labels for those 20% of the cases that need a visual cue to indicate something important to the agent. And also keep in mind that everything a label can do, a custom field can do too. So you can run rules off of custom fields, you can use macros to set custom fields, and you can also use custom fields for reporting. And making custom fields is really, really easy, and I just want to step out of the PowerPoint for 1 second to show everyone. So to create a custom field, you're going to go to Cases, okay? And there are 3 areas that you can create a custom field. In Cases, Customers, or Companies, okay? So let's make one for the case. We are going to make one that's going to be a test number 2. We're going to give it a variable name, okay? And there's several different custom field types that you can choose from. It could be a text field, it could be a number field, it could be true and false, a date, or a list. In this case, we're going to make a list.
Are there any limitations on custom fields? So how many options you can have for a custom field?
That's a really good question. You can definitely have over 100 values in a pick list. I can't remember exactly what the maximum is, but there's definitely a lot of flexibility in terms of the number of items you have on the pick list. Right? Okay. So here I've added some items. I can switch them around. I'm going to add this. Okay. Now I'm going to go over to the agent. Okay. And then I'm going to refresh this. Okay. And now you can see I have created just this test number 2 custom field with these pick list values. I can select a value and update the case, and then that value will stay with the case so that you can do reporting off of it.
Fantastic. We have a couple of other questions about custom fields.
Okay.
Are custom fields available in our classic agent?
Yes, definitely. And I can show you what that would look like in the classic agent. So if we go over to the classic agent, we open up a case. Okay. You can see here that test number 2 is right here. And this case already had this pick list value selected. So now you can see that it stays with the case.
Fantastic. And then we've talked a little bit about custom fields versus labels. We're looking for potentially if you have any recommendations about using custom fields to define an email topic, especially if a case has more than one topic. Are there ways to have multiple custom fields associated, or how does that work?
Yeah, you can definitely have multiple custom fields associated, and you can train your agents to say, this is the main contact reason, and then there's several sub-contact reasons. And you can use naming of the fields to kind of help you out. So for example, we can have we'll have one here that's sub-test number 1, okay? And then we'll just have this field here. And then we can have a subtest number 2. So you know that that's kind of like a child of the parent, which is, test number 2 or test number 1 in this case.
Fantastic. And then we have a couple of other questions about the visibility of custom fields. Can you make custom fields only available to certain agents or certain groups of agents?
That's a very good question. And with our NextGen agent, it's actually very easy to do that. So if we go over to NextGen, we have a new feature that was recently launched called NextGen Case Layouts. Okay, so if I go here, we can create a new case layout. Okay, let's call it test. Okay, and then you can drag and drop whichever fields that you want. Okay, so I don't have to have test number 2 in here if I don't want to, and then I can allow multiple people to have access to this. So right now I'm the only person in this desk instance. It's very lonely at the moment. When you have multiple agents, you can allow multiple agents to view this view. The one thing you want to keep in mind with NextGen Case Layouts is that a single agent has access to a single layout. So you want to make sure that the layout they have captures everything that they need to see to help answer cases across different types of groups.
So, and are these dependent? So would the sub-test be dependent on the initial test and the values that would appear in it?
So we don't have dependent drop-downs at the moment in the Desk agent. So this would be a process that you would establish with your agents.
Fantastic. Cool. And these case layouts are one of the really great ways that you can customize. So as you're thinking about that strategy for your customer service process and what your agents need, these case layouts can be really useful to keep your agents really focused and targeted on the cases on the pieces of the cases they should be working on.
And that's a really good point, Becca. And another thing that I want to show you about case layouts is that you can actually move these fields around. So whatever fits your company, whatever is the most important, you can actually move those around now. Okay, we're going to update that. And we're going to make this the default layout so that when we actually go into a case and we refresh it, okay, we can see now that the subtest is the first one. So we can completely rearrange the fields to suit the needs of your support organization.
And we have a couple of questions about reporting. When you run one of these business insights reports, how do you segregate by custom fields?
Okay, that's a good question. So let me just hop into one of my test accounts here, and we can go into business insights. Okay. So we're going to go into the report type that's for custom fields. Okay. Okay. So you can see that in my test site I have a number of different custom fields, okay, and within this date range, these few were selected. If I extend the date range, you're going to see that we're going to have more custom fields available. So I'm just going to set this until May 1st. Okay, so you can see we have several different types of custom fields here. So you can see that, depending on how you name them, so for example, if I wanted to only know ones that are related to category, I can hide the other ones by clicking on them. Perfect. So this way, I'm only seeing custom fields related to categories, and then I can see the number of cases that are created, and then I can see different metrics related to that custom field.
Wonderful. Okay. I know we're still getting a whole bunch of additional questions coming through. I want to also remind everyone that you can actually go to our support center and you can see a lot of the answers to these questions in search. I'll be providing that link in the chat window, so you'll all have one. I know I provided the link to the Getting Started resources. It's a great place to get started with Desk. But I think we want to make sure that we move on so that we get through all of the best practices. But we'll be opening that for Q&A again. So if you did ask a question that is absolutely burning a hole in your pocket, when we get to Q&A, please type it again. I'm very excited to see all the questions coming through, but it is hard to answer all of them.
Thank you, Becca.
Cool.
All right. So this then takes us to our third strategy, which is setting up your self-service. And self-service is really one of the best gifts that you can give your customers, and it can be one of your best partners in providing a great customer experience. So for your customers, they can quickly find the answer to their question and then go on with their day. For your company, this can equate to less contacts, especially those easily resolved by an article, so your support team can then focus on the cases that really need the attention of the agent. Needless to say, less contacts also means more dollar savings for your team. And additionally, by using the support portal contact form, you can collect richer details about the case than email, which leads to faster resolution time, a better customer experience, and again, more dollar savings. So I just want to jump out of this PowerPoint for a second to show you what an out-of-box support portal can look like with Desk. It's very simple to set up. You have a logo here, we have a built-in search bar, we have topics, you can add your different articles, and then you can also have your contact form where your customers can fill out their name, and then they can select, what type of customer they are. And these drop-downs are all custom fields. So when they come into Desk, you already know that this customer is a restaurant, and they're asking you about shipping. And therefore, you can more quickly service your customer.
And this is a great example of the self-service support site template that comes out of the box with Desk. So how do you get that set up?
That's a great question, and I was going to do a demo a little bit later on.
Oh, sorry. I jumped ahead.
No worries. But I do want to show you some of the really cool things about the support portal. So for example, if I have a question about a bagel, I type in the bagel here, but I have articles that show up along the side here. So even though this is an out-of-the-box tool, it's very powerful and can really help your customers get the answers to the questions that they have. Okay. I'm just going to jump back into here for a second. So one of the things that I want everyone to keep in mind is that your support portal is really continuous work in progress, and there are really varying complexities. So the one that I showed you is really an out-of-the-box type of support portal. And you can then create one that is behind a login. You can have a login here so your customers will need to log in order to see articles or the contact form. You can also use the community forum, which is a Q&A channel. You can have a live chat channel here. And you can also have one that's completely customized. So if we look at one of our customers, Pandora, this is their help center here. It's beautifully designed. It's completely on brand. And it has a very customized look and feel to it. But this is all powered by Desk. So, what I want to show everyone here is, out of the box versus very advanced. It's very easy to achieve all of these with Desk. So, When we think about best practices on your support portal, a lot of companies really perceive having a support portal as a really large endeavor, but with Desk.com, as I mentioned, it's very simple. So what you need is, and what I recommend is, to start with 5 to 10 knowledge-based articles, because you want to start with at least a few articles for your customers, and then you want a link that directs the customer to your support portal from your home page so that customers can find it. Next, you want to customize the look and feel to align with your brand so that they know it's still part of your company. And with Desk, it's really easy to do this. So this is where I'm going to answer your question, Becca, of how we can do this. Right? So if we go into Desk, we want to go to Channels. Then we go to Support Center. And then next we're going to want to go into the Web Themes. And you might have multiple themes. This current one that I'm working on is the default. And to modify it, you want to click on the gear icon here. And so here you can see there's a lot of different modifications you can make. You can update a logo, you can have a little favicon here, update that, and then you can change the colors. So for example, with my support photo here, the background here is now green. If I switch this to a red color, I save and continue, and then I refresh this, boom, now it's red. Very, very easy. There's a number of different colors that you can customize. You can add, different phone numbers, etc. And if you're feeling very adventurous, or if you have someone on your team that knows HTML and CSS, they can also come into the Advanced Themes section and make modifications. One of the best practices that I always recommend to my customers is before you edit your web theme, you want to make a copy of your current one. That way, if you make any changes and you don't like them, you can still revert easily back to the old one. And when it comes to knowledge-based articles, you want to go to Content, and then you want to start with the topics. So topics are these main sort of umbrellas under which you'll have the article. Then you can create a topic, and then you'll go to Articles, and then add a new article, and then it's as simple as that. It's going to show up on your web page.
So we've gotten some great questions about templates. And I want to try to consolidate some of those. So one of the questions we have is for on-demand companies where support inquiries need to be handled in real time. How do you recommend thinking about the branding? And this is something I think I'm gonna start with. The biggest part of branding one of these self-service support sites is making sure that the customer knows they're still dealing with your company. So, for example, one of the companies that I've spoken with recently that uses Desk.com for self-service support as well as all of their agents is a company called Halo. And Halo is an on-demand taxi cab kind of company. So any request that comes in to service needs to be handled very, very quickly. And so they've built a lot of self-service support so that customers can find their own answers instantly, that deflects a lot of cases away from their team, and the customer that is interacting knows that they're interacting with Halo because it's the Halo website. I think that that's a great way to think about branding from the perspective of self-service. Do you have anything you might like to add for that?
I think it's about the cues. Colors are important, and you can easily customize colors in Desk.com. And also, having a good logo and header just so your customers know that you're still on your site. And again, you can really customize Desk to be a part of your brand. So for example, with Pandora, this is actually what their website looks like. When you click on Help, you're still on the Pandora website, even though you're using a Desk support portal.
Fantastic. And then we've got a question about articles. So when we are thinking about having different articles, if we want to import them into Desk.com, what is the best way to do that?
That's a good question. So to import articles into Desk, the best way is to access our API. And you can upload articles in a XML format or in a CSV format, or if you want to use API endpoints, you can do that as well. At Desk, we also offer a package to help our customers do this because, we're very familiar with the product. We can do this very quickly for our customers. So there's several different methods, whether you want to do it for yourself or you want to have us help you out.
Fantastic. We did have a question about the email form, because the one that you used looked really good. Where's the best place to build that? Can you show us where to do that and maybe the admin?
Yeah. So the email form is really just a part of the support portal. So again, if we go back to channels, we go to support center, okay, and then we go to web theme, okay, and then we edit the web theme. Okay. So the way that you would edit the support contact form is in this section called email news. Okay. So you can see here there's a bunch of some JavaScript, there's some HTML, and then here is a section where I've added the custom fields. So we have some code here that will essentially pull in that custom field and then display it on this site here. And let's see, Becca, if we can pull up an article that shows customers how to do that, and we can send that out after.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best thing that we can point you to for a lot of this stuff is the support center. We have just like we're talking about self-service support being useful for every company, we use it ourselves. And it's the easiest way for you to get step-by-step instructions for how to do a lot of these things. Cool.
So I'm going to hop back into the PowerPoint and, just quickly go over the best practices that I have for everyone. So, a lot of companies view having a support portal as a lot of work, but as I showed you, it's really not that hard. And so I really encourage everyone to have a support portal from day one. And it's, good to get your customers in the habit of using it. And it's also good to have a basic platform on which you can build on. It's really about making self-service a part of the DNA of your customer experience. The second is to let your customers know that you have one and make it visible. It sounds very intuitive, but you'd be surprised about the number of customers that don't really do this. So make sure you have a really visible link from your homepage. You can also include a link to your support portal in your email signatures and in your auto acknowledgement. And third of all, if it makes sense for your business, and from my perspective, it does make sense for most businesses, encourage your customers to use the contact form. The more information you get from your customers, the more efficient you can be in helping them out. And the customer also has a chance to find solutions before they reach out to you, which is a great customer experience.
Awesome. I think we had a couple of people get a little bit concerned with all of the code that was in the contact form. Do you think they need to know a lot of code to be able to edit that?
You definitely will need to know some code, but it's actually very easy to do. And if I haven't done so already, I can also write a blog post that we can have in the next month or so to make sure everyone can do this very easily.
Great. And then we have another question about tagging articles so that they're properly surfaced in the support center.
Right. So let me step out for a second. So, aside from putting your article in the right topic so that your customer can find it, you can also associate your article with keywords. So, for example, I have an article here about how long are your bagels fresh for. So let's go in and edit that article. Okay. So just to show you, how this article may be surfaced, I can let me see if I can find an article that actually has some content in it. Okay, so I have some content in this one. So keywords is a really good way to tag your article. And just to show you how this might work, I'm just going to put a keyword as desk. I'm going to update that. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my support portal. Okay, I'm going to give it a good refresh. And then I'm going to say desk. And then this article that I just tagged will then show up.
Perfect. Great. And then let's see. We did get some questions about design help for making these support centers look beautiful.
Yeah.
Is that something that people can work with our WOW team to be able to get that beautiful support center?
So there's a couple of ways you can approach design. If you want a custom design that fits with your brand, what we recommend is that you have your designers sort of design page by page, what you want that look and feel to be. And then we actually have internal resources at Desk if you want to engage us to help you build out your support center. Another way is to find a customer of Desk that you like and tell our WOW team that, this is what I want my support portal to be. These are some of the assets that I have, the background that I want to use, and then do it that way so that you will require minimal design resources.
Perfect. Excellent. And then I think we have one more section before we get to our free-for-all Q&A. Why don't we cover that? And then I apologize to everyone. I've been completely inundated with the questions, and I've been trying very hard to answer them. So if I haven't gotten to your question, please re-ask it in the Q&A.
Okay. So, now we have some best practices for how to set up our support center and our support processes, for success. And, it's really important to think about your current customer experience, but it's also equally important to think as much into the future as possible. And so, your company definitely won't stay the same. It will add new products, it will expand to new regions, and you need to plan for growth and leverage Desk to help you maintain that great customer experience. So what I recommend to customers is, every few months, evaluate what aspects of Desk you foresee changing. Have a checklist, mark down, yes, no, maybe with respect to potential change. This is really just an exercise to get you in the habit of always evolving your Desk instance and to extract all the benefits and maximize the value of Desk. So for example, if we look at, January, we see that we are going to add 2 new agents. We're going to update the contact form and add more articles. In April, we revisit this exercise. We think about the next 3 months ahead. We're going to add a VIP group to the workflow. And as a result, in the cases, we're going to add new rules to help us route that VIP workflow. We're going to upgrade the look and feel of the support portal, implement single sign-on. We're going to integrate with a CPI provider for phone. And you want to really continue to add to this list. Desk is constantly releasing new features. And so, you want to subscribe to our newsletter, read our blog to stay informed of these new features, and make sure you're getting the most out of Desk as possible.
Fantastic. Wonderful. So we've made it to the Q&A, everyone. And I am going to put in the link to our Getting Started content in Desk.com on the Support Center. But in the meantime, let's take a look at some of the questions that are showing up. So we have a few more coming through. Oh, do you have a couple of additional favorite self-service centers that we can check out?
Yeah, a lot of our marquee clients, which you can see on the Desk.com website, have really great support portals. One of my favorite customers is One Kings Lane. And let's just go to their website here. And you can find their support portal, I believe, at the bottom somewhere. Okay. So very nice, very simple, very clean, with an email form here. Okay, that's one example.
One of the best practices that you can have within a support center is not only having that information, but making it really clear to the customer that if they can't find the answer to that question, there's an easy way to contact you and really set those expectations for the customer that they'll hear back from you. Let's see. So I think that answers that question. If you are adding a label, can you search and bring up all of the cases with that label?
Yes, you can do that. And you can also search for a custom field value. So as I mentioned, everything you can do with a label, you can do with a custom field.
Fantastic. Can you please show, okay, interesting. Can you please show how to make a question on the email template required? So if you are doing a contact form, how do you make one of the questions required?
That's a really good question, and it's a very advanced question, and it does require JavaScript. So if you want to take down the name of that customer, I can, definitely send them the script that they can use.
Fantastic. And I think, everybody should also be aware that it's very easy to contact our support team to get these questions answered. Michelle, what is the best way to contact our support team?
Yeah, the best way to contact us is at support@Desk.com. We have a really amazing customer service team here that will be happy to answer your questions.
Okay. We have a couple of other questions. We actually had a lot of questions about multi-brand support. And for those of you on the phone that aren't familiar with multi-brand support is essentially when you have more than one product or service in play that has a different support experience. So instead of having one customer support site for self-service, you have 2 or 3, depending on how many you have. Are there any best practices that you can address for how to build and develop a multi-brand customer service experience?
I think that's a very broad question. It really depends how similar those brands are. So, if they're both different product types, you can definitely leverage the same themes between the different support centers. If they're completely different, then, that wouldn't be the case. In terms of, best practices, I don't think there's anything too specific in particular, but I do want to quickly show our customers here, what a different brand might look like. So right now, I'm on the Bagels brand, which is this one here. And then I have a different brand here called Cupcakes, okay? And if I go to this URL, you can see that this support center looks different than the Bagels one. So with Desk, you can have multiple brands and multiple looks and feels of your support center.
Fantastic. I think we did a really great job of describing the differences between labels and custom fields, and we have a few folks on the phone that have been using labels when potentially they should have been using custom fields, and they're sort of understanding that thanks to your distinction between the two.
Okay.
If they want to go back and do any sort of bulk editing, can they sort of search by that label and then bulk edit and update to that custom field? Is that a possibility?
That's a really good question, and using the bulk update tool, you cannot do that because with Desk, I'll show you what that looks like. So let's go to the classic agent, for example. So when we do a bulk edit, the custom fields actually don't show up here, so you can't necessarily do that. One thing that you could do to get around that is to use rules. So you could create a case updated rule, okay? And then you could say, so we're going to case updated. So we could say, for example, okay, if the case has the label, okay, let's see, let's say bagel, okay, and it's been updated, then assign a custom field. Let's say, for example, let's say, the cupcake type. Then assign it to vanilla, okay? And then you can create this rule, and then what you can do is go back into Desk and select the cases that have the label bagel, and then maybe change the priority because, that's just a small change. And once that's updated, it will then set all those custom fields to the value that you want. So it's a little workaround.
Oh, nice workaround. Very cool. We also are having some questions about sort of email interactions. So for people or for companies that are supporting people in multiple countries, is there a way for them to assign some emails automatically depending on the country that they're sent from? That might be one of those situations where it's important to have separate email addresses so that it's easier to route.
Yeah. That's a good suggestion, Becca. And you might also want to create a custom field at the customer or company level that says language. So, once anyone from any, like that customer emails in, you'll always know that they, speak French, etc. But that will require you actually learning the first time that that customer speaks a certain language.
Very cool. Okay, we have a couple of other questions that I'd love to be able to get to. Give me just a second. We have, let's see, we've got a couple of additional questions about reporting. For any aging reports, so finding cases that, or finding a report that will show the age of open cases or any sort of aging data showing the changes between open and closed cases, is that a possibility in Business Insights via our agents report or maybe our segmentation report?
So that's a really good question, and I don't believe that's one of the standard reports that we offer. But you could use time rules, essentially, to mark aging cases, and then you could use the overview report and then filter for that label, and then you can view all the aging cases.
Got it. Okay. We also have a question back to the self-service support options. Is there a way to add any sort of print button onto the articles to make it easy for a customer to be able to print out that content?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I have not encountered that one before, but what I could do is direct you to the support theme. Okay, we would go in here. Okay, we go to advanced themes. Okay. And then in the article page, you can add a button here if you're familiar with HTML anywhere you want, and then you can have that function there.
Fantastic. Let's see. Okay. How do you, okay, Geese, I'm going to ask you to be a little bit more specific with your question because I remember you asked it earlier and I don't remember during what part, and I apologize for that. We do have a question about the best usage of filters so that we can be more efficient about managing cases. Do you have any tips or tricks on filters?
Yeah, I mean, filters is one of those things that are very, very specific to each company. So one of the ways, for example, if you have a Tier 1 and if you have a Tier 2 level of support, what I usually like to do is create a filter that's Tier 1 open cases. So that filter will contain all of the cases in Tier 1 that have not been resolved. And then I'm going to have a Tier 1 unassigned filter. So that will contain all the cases that don't have an agent assigned to it yet. And then I would make one that has a Tier 1, resolved cases so that you can go in and quickly see which cases were last resolved in the Tier 1 group. And then I would repeat that for any groups, major groups that you have. So I would repeat that for Tier 2. I would repeat that for, urgent or VIP if you have those types of filters. And then it's always a good idea to have the all cases filter because that allows you to go in and easily search any case that came up.
Fantastic. And while we're still talking about best practices, do you have any best practices for social cases, interacting on Twitter, for example, or Facebook? Because I know that functionality exists in Desk. Are there any best practices around how to set that up?
In terms of setting that up, it's very straightforward setup. So you would just go to channels and add the account. So there's not necessarily any, best practices setting it up. It's very straightforward.
I know we have a lot of companies that have one Twitter handle for their sort of marketing channel, and then they have a separate Twitter channel for support, so that there's less confusion between what's happening from a support perspective versus what's happening from a marketing perspective. And what's really great is you can set up your filters to quickly identify cases that are coming in from social channels, or apply a custom field or a label as a visual trigger to say, hey, this is an urgent case and something we need to respond to quickly because it's coming in from social.
I think that's a good point that you bring up, Becca, in terms of, you know, having a general marketing handle versus having a support handle. If, you know, if you're like a B2C company or you interact with your customers a lot through social media, you definitely want to think about creating a support-specific handle. That way, you know, it'll funnel specifically the cases that need your attention rather than just any type of tweet that comes in. So I think that's actually a very important best practice. And again, using the filters, I think that's a really good idea as well.
Mm-hmm. And then I have another question about onboarding. What is the best way to get your agents up to speed on all of the goodness that you have in Desk, whether you've got macros and other productivity tools in play, the knowledge articles they should be aware of, or any kind of information that exists that will help them be more effective faster?
That's a really great question, and let me direct you to a guide that I actually created just for that purpose. So let's see next gen training here. Okay. So we have essentially a deck here.
By the way, this is our support center, everyone.
Yes.
If you go to support.desk.com, you will get access to a massive library worth of materials.
Exactly. So this is a training guide that I created for agents who are just getting started with Desk. So it kind of gives them an overview of what Desk is, and then it shows them, you know, each of the features within the Desk agent itself. Okay? And in some parts, it actually links out to different articles. Okay? And then it also shows them, for example, how to work a case, you know, what different types of channels we have, what's the case life cycle, the different statuses that are available, what that flow might look between getting a new case and then resolving it, and how to actually work a case. And this is for the next-gen agent, and if you're on Classic, we also have a version for Classic agent that you can download.
Fantastic. And can you take that link and put it in the chat so that everybody can have access to it?
Definitely.
And guys, with that, we are at our time. So thank you so much for joining us. That was a really wonderful webinar and a great influx of questions. Again, if we didn't get to your question, I'm so sorry. But we're going to take a look at this, and if you want to add some additional chat or contact, give us your email address so it's easy for us